Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this Thursday. Yes, it's been a shortened week, and no, we have not given up on volatility. Volatility continues to be a big part of what we are seeing in the markets, and for all the right reasons. The movement that we are getting within the markets certainly does warrant where we are with volatility right now. So yesterday, we did trade volatility between a nice, interesting range, call it 28.31, somewhere close to that, 27 to 31. We actually did close near those highs of the day. Why did we do that? Well, you take a look over at the Dow and the NASDAQ both, and you can see exactly what happened. That huge flip that started right out of the gate. As a matter of fact, the Dow started off actually up 200 points yesterday, only to finish down 465 points. Almost 1.5% to the downside. It was even worse for the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ took a huge plunge. That was down 2.5% yesterday, or 344 points. It was up 150 points early on. That gives you a little bit of an idea of just the craziness of the markets that we are in right now, the news driven and all the different catalysts that we talk about each and every day. Of course, very top being Ukraine, but then you've got the Fed, and you've got job numbers, all the things that go in to giving the market that much more an uncertainty that we seem to be in right now. Consumer discretionary yesterday got absolutely slammed. And you know, you can almost point right to what I've been talking about for a long time now. Tesla being sort of what I look for the full barometer of what's going most likely happening within the NASDAQ. And it certainly has been working, at least of late. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit more in just a second. Technology. It was actually up 1%. We finished the day down 2.5%. You look over at the semiconductors, up nearly 2%, finished down 2%. Gives you an idea of just how volatile we were throughout the session yesterday. Financials were up 1%, finished down close to 2%. Financials, by the way, today getting whacked. With all of that movement, yes, volumes off the charts. 41 million contracts trading yesterday. 10 years, sort of hanging around that 199 area. Look over at crude, 92, 93. A little bit different story in the after hours after we've gotten the news of Ukraine and everything going on with Russia. Certainly we had a big spike and actually got over $100 in crude for the first time in a really, really long time. So that was something in the overnight markets. Before we get to that, I will say there was some strength in the market, but not a whole heck of a lot. You look over at Caesars, you look at Penn. Little bit of strength there. I look over at Chevron, which of course in the energy space does make some sense. That was up about 2.5%, but Tesla down 7%, Moderna down about 6%, cruise ships getting hit, AMD and some of those semiconductors going to the downside. That was down about 5% yesterday. Airbnb getting slammed, Datadog. Then you look over at the big cap names, those mega caps, and you look at Cisco and Microsoft and Apple all getting hit yesterday. You can understand why we had about a 2.5% move to the downside yesterday in the NASDAQ. So we get the jobless claims numbers. We got pretty much in line there. Yeah, GDP, they got the revisions there. Oh, and that little country over there, yeah, Ukraine, that is definitely front, center, and controlling the markets right now. We were down over 800 points in the pre-market for the Dow. Down about 450, call it close to 500 points on the NASDAQ. Never even got close to that on the NASDAQ, but it was interesting to watch this morning in this first hour of trade. By the time we opened, NASDAQ actually improved dramatically. The Dow, not so much, somewhere between 700 and 800 to the downside, got up. It was down about 600 points, which was a huge gain off of those lows. It's been starting to slip once again. We also look over at the NASDAQ. Almost got into positive territory. Absolutely extraordinary move. When I say that, it was down, I think, on the highs, down about 50 points or so. We did start to slip. Last I looked, we were down a little over 100 points on the NASDAQ. So certainly getting a lot of movement, and it's going second by second. That's why we are seeing volatility exactly where it is. Got up and above that 37, call it very close to 38, 34 to 38 so far today for that volatility index. And it's interesting because we were just talking before we came on. John and I were talking, and we're going all the way back when we were looking at volatility somewhere in the teens. And our guy, AJ Monty, talking about this. This guy is one of the greatest chart guys you will ever find. And AJ was talking about, hey, sometime maybe late February, we get into March, we might start to see something close to a 42 mark. Well, we got awful close today, and here we are late February getting pretty close to March. So great job by AJ. We appreciate him as part of the team at Market Rebellion. Does an absolutely outstanding job. He is truly the oracle. We love the guy. So financials getting hit right out of the gate. They did recover a little bit, but they were getting absolutely slammed, leading the downside by a lot. As a matter of fact, consumer discretionary down as well, did improve a little bit, not a lot. Materials, they were down about 2.5%. We did have some of those improvements that I was talking about that were definitely affecting the markets themselves. Technology was down over 2.25%, got much better. It was down about 1%. It's starting to slide a little bit. Semiconductors were down 2.7% or so, and that was improving dramatically. They probably pulled back a little bit because of that movement from the NASDAQ as it started to slip back down again. Long day in front of us. We all know that. We'll all be in front of computers watching this thing all day long. Moderna, strong out of the gate. Live Nation, strong out of the gate. Pretty nice. Nice to see that. Some of those defense names. Northrop Grumman. I look over at LMT as well. They're very, very strong early on. Not huge, but they had some strength going, a couple of percent to the upside. Really nice to see that. And Palo Alto Networks, a really, really strong move as well. A lot of folks talking about what's going on in the internet world and security and that side of things. And we're seeing a little bit of buying in some of that area for sure. But where you're not seeing a lot of buying, at least early on today, we're seeing some selling. Some of the losers so far, you look over at some of those cruise ships, you look over at Norwegian Cruise Lines, we've seen some positive paper in there, but a stock that's definitely to the downside. Airlines, United Airlines, leading to the downside. The airlines getting hit just a little bit. Chinese names getting hit, at least Baidu and JD and a few other of those names. eBay down about 7% early on. We did see JP Morgan. I talked about those financials. JP Morgan definitely under some serious pressure early on. Mega cap tech, we've been talking about that. Even when they're not down huge, they are big and they are a force. And when you start to see many of those names getting into negative territory, that certainly is going to be a drag on the market. So energy did start off a little bit closer into the green, but that slipped as well. So we look at oil that actually breached that 100 level. Last I looked, we were trading right around WTI about 97.50 or thereabouts. So we are definitely seeing a little bit of shifting around. By the way, we talked about this just the other day. I came on the halftime report with a little bit of information about what was going on in some of the metals, specifically talking about gold. Had a really nice run, 1 year highs for GLD or gold rather at 1970. So that had a little bit of a push to the upside, and we certainly are happy to see some of those guys out there that are taking that risk and putting on a little bit of a position that got us alerted to that whole thing too about gold as well. It's always great to see. Speaking of that, I got two unusuals. And I got a double-double today. I'll be on the halftime report in just a little while with Melissa Lee. I'll also be on the 5 o'clock Fast Money show later on in the afternoon, about 5 o'clock, with Melissa Lee as that host once again. So let's start off with this, ARK, the fintech side of ARK. So this is ARK-F. This one's interesting. It traded to new lows today. It was off of those lows. It was trading about 25.40 today. We had a buyer of 14,800 of the March 23 puts in this ARK-F. Now, they're rolling down from the 26 puts down to the 23 puts, taking a little bit of money off the table, very smart. It did have a little bit of a bounce post these puts. So, but there is time to play out here. We're going out to March. That buys a little bit of time. Those puts were bought for about $1. As I said, close to 15,000 of those. Another interesting one, Upstart. This is a name that's been absolutely slammed to the downside. We've all watched that since the earnings and everything. And this is a name that I think it was up, 150s, 160s, and then came crashing down. Today, trading a little over 110. We did have a buyer of 4,200 of Friday's expiring, February 25th. The 115 calls. Stock can make a little bit of a move to the upside. These calls will start to move as well. They were about $1.50. They paid all the way up to about $2.80 for those options. Not a huge trade, but a very interesting trade with a very short time duration as well. Today's already Thursday. They got today and tomorrow for these options to work. Last I looked, it was starting to work. I saw where it was moving from 110 to 112. We'll see if that continues. We'll also see if the markets decide to go back and test some of those lows from early on in the pre-markets, something we very frequently do see. Not all the time, but it'll be interesting to see that as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you at halftime. And until then, be safe, be smart, understand the derivatives world and how you can control your risk as well. Have a great day of trading.